But what do you think? What are the pros and cons of being a church that lives in reckless abandon to whatever need they see and whatever is in front of them? What are the ups and the downs for it? Since you said your natural tendencies probably be to the caution, give me the downs of living of a church that is reckless abandon.
Super
We're
urgent.
just after it.
You know, what immediately came to my mind, and I guess I'm just thinking about urgency of the gospel message. It, in a way, this is going to sound bad, but if you're in your community, and you're just hammering every single person about the gospel. It's I don't want to say this. I'm going to start that over. Can we edit that?
Yes. Just take a pause.
I was going to say you're going to burn people out on the gospel, but that's not a thing.
But yeah, you definitely could.
No, I think that's an honest caution. I think that's one of the people go, oh, that's Jehovah's Witness knock on your door. You're really not going to listen to what they're saying. You
Okay,
go,
well, maybe we don't need to edit that. But
I think that
I felt weird. I felt weird saying
point.
it.
It's a valid point. You will get people burned out to where they say all they're doing is they're just going to talk to me about that and nothing else. There's no evidence to back it up. So I think when you allow that urgency to focus down, I mean, it's like a microscope. Sunlight's great till you run it through
magnifying
glass,
Yeah.
and you can burn things up.
Yeah.
And the gospel is, and I think that's because the urgency needs to be to the great commandment. The great commandment is to make disciples, and the gospel is only the introduction to.
Yeah.
And so
that's what I was going to say is the danger that you're saying there's burning somebody out on the gospel is if we just say we're so urgent about saving souls and we hit the ground running and we go burn every street and we just run through every street and we say, do you know Jesus? And we tell them about Jesus and then we never go back to them because our urgency is only in salvation, it's only in reaching the lost and not in discipleship, then it's urgency has caused a problem. There needs to be a plan and action for when a new believer comes in. How do we bring that believer into the fold and say, this is what you need to be doing, and start teaching them, give them a place to serve, and then and go forward from there.
Which I think is the caution side of it. To me, I think the greatest danger in that urgency is having pastored in mission churches and having worked with mission pastors, is if your focus is solely on, great, you're saved, now we're going to spend a little bit of time with you, then we're going to send you out, and you've got people out in your community representing the gospel and representing the church that probably have a lot of things in their life that they don't understand, aren't representing the gospel well. And so you wind up really with weak doctrinal ground to stand on because you pushed the front line so much, but you haven't backed it up in that discipleship process. You haven't followed, you're not building the whole. You know, we all remember, I was watching Addie the other day, and I watched her walk in the back of the church. She got up to go to the bathroom while I was preaching, and she'd come back in. And I'm thinking, boy, that girl's got to grow into her arms and legs. She's just like, it's all over. But churches go through those growth stages. And yes, there needs to be a growth stage where we see an influx of new believers. But then that has to balance out with some muscle growth. It has to balance out with some discipleship. It has to balance out with some small groups that form groups within your church that are holding each other. And these people are dealing with being fathers, and these people are dealing with being grandparents, and that has to happen to make it a whole. And so I think that to me, the biggest danger of a church just being all gung-ho is the easiest part of church to be gung-ho about is the gospel. Mm-hmm. And if we're just excited about what we're excited about, we don't take care of the hard work that keeps things going. And I think that's our biggest risk. There are mistakes that can be made.
Can I use a biblical example?
I guess we can bring the Bible in this if you need to, Evan.
Well, so I'm studying Paul's second missionary journey because that's what we're going to talk about on the young adults trip coming up. And if you don't know how it started, it's Paul and Barnabas have a disagreement. And their disagreement is over John Mark because on their first missionary journey, John Mark left him in the lurch. And you can speculate on why. You know, the work may have been too hard for him and he was scared. But Barnabas...
They didn't have air conditioning in his hotel.
Yeah. And Barnabas wanted to reconcile with him, but Paul didn't trust him. And you can speculate about that too, but if you look at that based on what we were just talking about, Paul had the urgency, like we got to go and we've got to do the best we can, and Barnabas cared about that relationship, and he wanted to work on that.
And I think this plays in great to our society where we are today, is that we don't value the people who look at the world different than us as much as we should. To me, that's the strength of that story. And to us, we want to say, well, we're going to be a church that rather focuses on the gospel, or we focus on those And it's not a matter of going, well, why can't we have both those people? Why are the people that are so focused on relationship looking at the gospel people going, if they just slow down, why can't we just work in harmony? I'm glad they're out there reaching them. We'll disciple them. You go grab them. And, I haven't fished a lot since my father passed away. And it's not because I fished with my dad very much. My dad liked cleaning fish. And I would just as soon I'd rather eat cheap fish sticks than clean fish. And so I've now lost the ability to go fishing, come home, my dad cleaned the fish, and we have a fish fry, and everybody's enjoying themselves. And because we complemented each other. And now I'm no longer really excited about going fishing because I've lost the rest of that picture. And I think that's how the church should work. I think we all know the upside to being a church that's focused on urgency. And so I don't think we need to spend. Do you guys see something that you think the church might be missing when we talk about the upside of urgency?
I think situationally, kind of like what we discussed earlier, was that know what you should be urgent about. And you should be urgent about the gospel. You should be urgent about discipling. You should be urgent about being seen in the community as a church that loves and cares and is not the prototypical Christian church that hates all these other things that are going on in the world. And instead, we should be a church that says, we love the world, we just don't love what you're doing, but we love you because God loves you. And it's all of that goes together to give us a great urgency in certain things. But some things we probably should step back and go, well, should we build a new building? Yeah, let's just build it, And if we don't take plans, if we just go out there with wood and some stuff and we start throwing a building together, we're probably not going to wind up with anything very good. So I think that there's some stuff, and that's a really goofy example, but I think that you get my point, is that some things we do need to take a step back and go, what is God leading us to do as a church, as a Christian? And we know without a shadow of a doubt that He's already told us we should be reaching the lost and discipling. That's why you can be urgent about them. Right. The other things are somewhere in the middle.
So let's go ahead and give what I like to do. This is my approach. Let's go ahead and give a